Hello, everyone, and welcome to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and June, yes, it is June of 2026. Man, time is flying by. We are flying through 2026, and good, because 2026 has been a dumpster fire. It is horrible in 2026. Well, it's horrible for the last 2 years for obvious reasons, but it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. But we've arrived at June. And despite all of the stuff that is going on around us, wars and high prices, inflation, voters' rights being stripped away, and all that other good stuff that this government is just anyway. That's a whole nother show to discuss. But there is something to celebrate. There is something to kind of get our minds off of this dumpster fire that is called the United States of America. June is Black Music Month. This is a celebration that happens every year. You know, June, we know that June has Juneteenth and all, which is great. But a lot of people don't know that the entire month is dedicated to Black music. And, I try every year here on the show to honor Black Music Month. And this year is no exception. We're going to honor Black Music Month, and we're going to have a film to review that goes along with our topic today being Black Music Month. A film that touched my soul 40 years ago. 40 years. The film Crossroads that came out in 1986. No, not the, I think early 2000s Britney Spears film Crossroads. Not that. We're not going there. The actual good one, starring Ralph Macchio, who was fresh off of The Karate Kid. He dove into this drama, and man, you want to talk about love this movie. And this was the go-to film that I thought of this year. Just so happened to be the 40th anniversary of the release of that film. And we're going to go over that. But before we review or retro review that film, let's go over Black Music Month in the event that a lot of people don't know what Black Music Month is. But the United States have been celebrating Black Music Month in June since 1979, believe it or not. In the month of June, it was set aside to appreciate the contributions of Black musicians, composers, singers, and songwriters in American culture. This month honors the history and rich African traditions that gave birth to different styles of music. We know them all. Which you could probably say all music. Every genre of music has a Black fingerprint on it. I don't care if you're talking about country, western, gospel, whatever it is. But the most common genres of music that a lot of people know that are affiliated with the Black culture: rap, hip hop, jazz, R&B, barbershop, swing. Yeah, all of that. But if you truly know the history of the Black contribution to music, is all genres of music. Rock and roll, like I said before, country, all that was pretty much started in the Black communities. Now, heavy metal, I think that's all you. I think that's all somebody else. I don't think Black culture had a hand in creating heavy metal. But we did have a hand in rock and roll, which is kind of an offshoot. So I guess indirectly the Blacks did, but whatever. Y'all get what all I'm saying. But this month is, in particular, it's celebrating the creative inspiration and appreciation, the impact that Black music has had on generations of performers and music lovers alike. From tales of slavery and racism and fighting for just their basic human rights to finding their heritage and value in their lyrics. Black music covers a vast range of topics that have great significance in this community. Over the years, we have seen black musicians reach some great height, not only on official music record charts, but also in entertainment award ceremonies. While President Jimmy Carter designated June as Black Music Month back in 1979, it wasn't until the year 2000 when the presidential proclamation for the month was signed. Back in 2009, then President Barack Obama, he went on to rename the month from Black Music Month to his current name of African American Music Appreciation Month. Now, the reason I don't go by that name, I don't rock with the African American label. That doesn't, and I'm not mad at anybody who does. I just don't, me personally, because I'm not African. I'm not African. I'm black. I'm black. If black is on my birth certificate, I'm black. And so I don't go with the African American thing. Plus, this is still that lingering fact that just is seared in my head. I can't get over the fact that, and I know I'm going on a tangent off subject here, but it's just, I feel the need to explain myself. It's still the fact that an actress like Charlize Theron, who is from Africa, who has American citizenship, is considered an African American. So what similarities does me and Charlize Theron have? Zero. We have absolutely none. And so I don't rock with the African American label. But like I said, that's just me. That's just me. Now, getting back on subject here, President Barack Obama, he highlighted the importance of this month and various genres in black music. This includes sacred music, which is one of the earliest black music forms in the United States that highlights gospel themes and black Christian values. He also highlighted blues and R&B, which relayed ideas of homeland and racial integration. Hip hop, rock, and rap, it's quickly becoming popular overseas as they appeal to young folks around the world. And see, black music is not just music, but it's an integral part of American history. We all mentioned before, black musicians' efforts gave birth to a number of newer genres of music like jazz and rap. Throughout the last century, these genres have redefined American culture landscape. When people were struggling as a nation like now, the music brought the entire generation together. The music that emerged in the last few decades also became an essential part, I would say, of the civil rights movement. The beats and sounds of these genres influence rock, soul, gospel, bebop, boogie woogie, and other genres of music. Famous rock bands like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles credit blues and jazz as major influences on their music. In fact, a lot of it, this isn't shocking late breaking news. I'm pretty sure everybody knows this, but a lot of Elvis Presley songs were originally performed by black artists. More recently, genres such as funk, Motown, and hip hop have also been influenced by black performers who have introduced new dance and singing styles to the genre. Throughout the month of June, music lovers gather together to celebrate Black Music Appreciation Month. They celebrate the diversity, the inclusion, the community's impact in shaping cultural conversations in modern America. Just go through the timeline of black music, in America. In the late 1800s, you had blues that spawned from racial oppression. You know, blues was born from a racial oppression and the struggles of black people that they those struggles that they faced around that time. It told their story. It was an outlet for them. You know, in the early 1900s, I say 1930s, when the Apollo Theater opened in Harlem, it instantly became a cultural hub for black music. Then you fast forward to the 50s when Marion Alexander became the first black singer to perform at the New York Metropolitan Opera. Then in the 70s, when you had Stevie Wonder, who won a Grammy, he became the first black artist to win a Grammy Award for Album of the Year. In 1982, when Michael Jackson released Thriller, and the album sold 66 million copies worldwide and still counting. Especially with the movie coming out, it is still going strong. Thriller is just thrilling. And then we fast forward to just a few years ago in 2019, I should say, when Childish Gambino or Donald Glover, whatever you want to call him, when he released the anthem, "This Is America," and it was a way to represent, you know, it was the realities of black folks, and it became rap's first song to win Song of the Year at that year's Grammy Awards, believe it or not. So it's a given that black music, no matter what the genre is, makes an impact in every decade of this country. This country is about to celebrate its 250th year, and black music has been an essential part for 250 years. It's amazing to really sit back and think about it. You know, where would we be without black music? What would we be listening to right now? Bluegrass? I don't know what will we be listening to, bumping in our cars right now. It's wow how far black music has reached and how much of an impact, not just here in the United States but worldwide. It's something to beat your chest on if you're black. Honestly, man, it feels good to know that we created something so impactful. And it's just one little piece of the puzzle, because black people have made an impact in everything that we've been a part of and don't get the recognition for it, unfortunately. But let me give some facts about black music for Black Music Month that you probably don't know. And some of these I didn't know until I until I was doing the research for it. But here are 5 facts about Black Music Month that will probably blow your mind. Number 5, which this is an easy one. This is a softball one. I'm pretty sure you know this one. James Brown, he came up with funk music in the last few years of the 1950s. He also would go on to become one of the most sampled artists of all time. Yes, he's a pioneer, or he was, God rest his soul, a pioneer of funk music. Number 4, Kendrick Lamar, K. Dot, Kung Fu Kenny. He won a Pulitzer Prize in 2018 for his studio album, Damn. He was the first pop musician, and I use pop with heavy quotations, but that's how they have it on the books, to win a Pulitzer. And number 3, Aretha Franklin. She was terrified of flying. She was so scared of flying that she refused to attend her own Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony because she would have had to get on a plane to get there. Number 2, Billie Jean made history. Not only was it on the most top-selling album of all time, but Michael Jackson's Billie Jean was the first music video by a black artist to appear on MTV. And that's the one I did not know. Shockingly enough, did not know that. I thought, and I had to go back and fact check and everything else, because I thought I saw other artists before Michael Jackson's Billie Jean. But no, it is it is a fact. This one really did blow my mind. All the other ones I pretty much knew, but that one blew my mind. But coming in at number one, which a lot of people don't know, I accidentally saw this when I saw a documentary about this young gentleman, and it's the late great Tupac Shakur. Tupac took ballet classes as a student when he was at Baltimore School of Arts. Tupac could dance, and I remember seeing him before he blew up as this cultural just juggernaut in the rap game in the mid 90s, even before he was in Digital Underground. But he was a background dancer for oh my God, who was he background dancer for? I'm pretty sure somebody out there know. But I remember seeing him as a dancer. Didn't know he took ballet though. But to say that somebody who gave us such classics as Hit 'Em Up and All Eyes on Me and two of America's Most Wanted studied ballet. But those are your 5 facts about Black Music Month that probably blew your mind. You probably already knew, but I just thought it would be fun to mention on the show. So let's get into the review. Let's get into this cult classic of a film that is celebrating its 40th year anniversary. Directed by Walter Hill, who gave us 48 Hours, The Warriors, Streets of Fire. He also produced Alien and Aliens and so many other films back in the 80s. He is a accomplished director, and he gave us this 1986 film that was inspired by the legendary blues singer Robert Johnson, Crossroads, which stars Ralph Macchio. As I mentioned before, he was the Karate Kid around this time. Well, still is. He just had a Karate Kid movie, but he everybody remembers him and loves him from the Karate Kid, which I like, but I always gravitated to this movie. He always stuck out in this movie just for being in this movie. This is one of my guilty pleasures, I guess you could say, even though I think this movie deserves a little more credit than what it got. Now, back then in 1987 or 86, it got positive reviews, but theatrically it didn't make any money. Nobody went to go see it. You know, who want to see a movie about a blues singer who sells his soul to the devil at the Crossroads? But it piqued my interest. And now, like I said, this movie was inspired by the blues singer Robert Johnson. If you don't know the story of Robert Johnson, he's loosely based as well in the movie Sinners. A lot that takes place in that movie was inspired by the story of Robert Johnson. And I know a lot about it because, number one, he's from Mississippi, around the Delta there, where my folks grew up. And I listened to blues because my dad was heavily into the blues, you know, listening to ZZ Hill and all that. I know about it. But the story is, at least this legend about him is that that emerged around the time he became famous, is that he made a deal with the devil at the Crossroads in exchange for his musical ability. Now, according to the story, as a young man, he was living on this plantation in rural Mississippi. Johnson had tremendous desire to become this great blues musician. And so one of the legends often told says that Johnson was instructed to take his guitar to a crossroad near Dickory Plantation at midnight. Now, this is where my mind was blown as a young kid. When I was younger, my vacations No, we didn't go to Disneyland or Disney World or Six Flags and sit up on the beach and sip mai tais and stuff like that. My vacations as a kid was to go visit my grandparents in Mississippi, in, in their hometown of Cleveland, Mississippi, to be exact. And going up there, driving up there, and riding in the back, and I'm just looking around and nothing, just fields of, you know. But we would pass up, and I had to pass this plantation up every time we went to Cleveland, Mississippi, because it sits right there on the border of Cleveland and what's that? What's the other town? I think Rulin or Ruleville. I can't remember the name of the other town, but it sits right there in on the Sunflower River, which the Sunflower River runs right in front of the plantation that my grandparents lived on. And so I saw this plantation at least 3 times a year. I was there. I actually put eyes on it. So being young and hearing these stories about that, I'm like, wait. So every time we pass, I'm passing we got to cross the crossroads to get there. I'm like, so I didn't want to go. So it got to the point I didn't want to go to Mississippi after watching this movie, and then after learning about this quote unquote legend that took place with Robert Johnson. But yeah, this hits close to home to me. But back to the story, he was met by this large being. Never said that it was a man or nothing, but it was perceived to be the devil. And he took the guitar and tuned it up. And so the devil played a few songs and then returned the guitar to Robert Johnson, giving him mastery over the instrument. And in exchange for his soul, Johnson was able to create blues, for which he became famous for. I don't know if you were in the blues and you ever heard Robert Johnson play the guitar, but oh my God. I love guitar. I love to hear artists who play guitar. I guess that's why I'm a big Prince guy. Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix and all the great guitarists I gravitate to because I love guitar and what a guitar brings to a song. It just brings, for lack of a better term, some soul to a song. Whatever track is being played and you hear a guitar in the background, whether it's an acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, whatever it is, it just adds a little something to a song. And to hear blues singers and blues musicians play that guitar, oh my God, it just pierces your soul. Which is one of the reasons why I love this film so much, because it's centered around guitar play. And then when you get that duel at the end of this movie is even more satisfying to me. But yeah, Delta, man, it's all set in the Delta. And going back to Crossroads, this film was shot in Brula, Mississippi, which is right next door to Cleveland. So once again, I knew this spot. I knew where this was filmed at. And so it just, I don't know, man, the connection is there. And so take all of this review with a grain of salt, because clearly there is some bias here. Clearly, I really have a connection to this movie and to my heritage. My family lineage is wrapped up in this movie, even though none of my family appears in it. But it's just the vibe, the feel of that part of the country in Mississippi, in the Delta, you can feel it. If you sit down and watch Crossroads, in that tone, in that atmosphere that you feel there, the sweaty, the humidity, the everything about it, that's it. They captured that perfectly in this film. That's how it feels up there. And that's not a bad thing. It's good. it's a good thing. But anywho's, yeah, Ralph Macchio, you have Joe Sonica. You have Getz also in this film. It's it's a weird movie to kind of review today, you know, being as though it's Black Music Month. But the movie is centered around this white guy. Yeah, this white guy, 17-year-old, who's just fascinated with blues music, and he's studying classical guitar at Juilliard in New York, and he's researching blues music, blues guitar playing, and he learns about this myth about Robert Johnson and selling his soul and whatnot, you know, at the Crossroads. And so he's so enamored by this, and he's looking for this missing song, and you know, he gets in contact with Johnson's long lost friend Willie Brown, which is fact. This is a fact that he did have a friend named Willie Brown who was incarcerated for murder or attempted murder, and he's at this minimum security hospital place. And so Eugene, he goes to see him, and he denies that he's Willie Brown, and he finally admits that he is after hearing Eugene play some blues. And Willie, then he knows that Robert Johnson's missing song in question, but refused to give it to him unless the boy breaks him out and they go to Mississippi, where he has some unfinished business to settle. And so Eugene, he agrees, and then they head south to Mississippi. And then the boy realizes that Willie he's running some game on him, you know. They haven't all having not of the best of starts of their friendship or relationship, scamming him out of money and whatnot. But as they go on this road trip and encounter different adventures along the way, they go to a juke joint, and they eventually meet up with a girl who's played by Jimmy Getz, who is running from her stepfather, an abusive stepfather, and she's hitchhiking with him. And her and Eugene, they start to have a relationship, and she later abandons them both to continue her little journey, I guess you could say. So Eugene, he's heartbroken at this time. So now he has deep feelings for the blues. Now he can really sing the blues. And so at the same time, Willie, he had confessed that there is no missing song. There's no missing Robert Johnson song. And so eventually they do reach the Crossroads, and I believe it was filmed in the same spot. I think I remember this spot because my dad told me, he pointed it out to me. Like, yeah, they filmed that right, you know, when we were passing it one time. And he was like, yep, this is the spot. This was the spot. And I'm like, okay. And so they did eventually reach the Crossroads, where Willie reveals his secret, his ability to play the harmonica. And because of the deal with the devil, which he had made in this very same location, you know, Willie now hopes to end that deal. And so the devil, he comes, he calls himself Scratch, and he shows up and insists that the contract with Willie's soul is still valid, even if Willie is dissatisfied with how his life turned out. That wasn't his look. It is what it is. The deal's the deal. And so Eugene, he believes the other two are joking around. He doesn't believe it's the devil. You know, he's. I mean, who's gonna believe? Really, who's gonna believe? Okay, the devil showed up here. Whatever. So he's messing around, and the devil offers a challenge. If Eugene can come at this special contest and or concert, I should say, and win this guitar battle against his guitarist, then Willie can get his soul back. But if he loses, then Eugene will forfeit his soul. And so despite Willie pleading with Eugene don't do it. He agrees with the deal. And so Willie and Eugene, they're transported to this music hall where the metal blues guitarist Jack Butler, that was his name, Jack Butler, who also sold his soul for the musical ability. He's wowing the crowd with his talents. And Eugene now understands the situation. He now at this point it got real, and so he receives a mojo bag from Willie. And in case you don't know what a mojo bag is, it's a lucky thing. It's like a rabbit's foot, but it's a mojo bag, and he also slipped his slide on, giving him a particular advantage against his opponent. And so Eugene and Jack, they trade guitar parts, and each were able to top the other. Eventually, Eugene, he falls back to his classical training and playing a fast and difficult piece that Butler, he just couldn't match it, bro. He was the struggle was real with old Jack Butler, and he lost. And so Butler drops the guitar and struts off, and the devil tears up Willie's contract and frees Willie's soul. So Willie and Eugene are transported back to Mississippi, where they started walking again, deciding to head back to Chicago to play together. And Willie tells Eugene that after they stay in Chicago, they must part ways, they must go our separate ways, so Eugene can go out and do his own music. And that's where the movie ends. This movie was awesome. I love this movie. I love the performances by Ralph Macchio. This was probably Ralph Macchio's best. It's I don't know if it's this one or The Outsiders. I love them in The Outsiders, but this is real close to one of his best performances. And Ralph Macchio is really good. He's really underrated. I think he got typecast in that Daniel Son Vortex, where he just couldn't break free. He's still playing that role to this day. He just couldn't break free, but he is an awesome actor. And this movie proves that. This movie had the feel of the Mississippi Delta through and through. It was so authentic. It just felt real to me. And I guess, like I said, is a little biased there, not just because of the connections to my parents' hometown and all this other stuff, but the fact that I grew up listening to blues, and around this time, coincidentally, around the time of the release of this movie, and having a connection to blues music and seeing this movie and feeling it, it just, to this day, 40 years later, still feels the same. Rewatching it for this show, when I jump back into it, it still holds up to me. Yeah, it's a little dated in spots, but nothing like you could tell this, oh man, this movie is old. I mean, the movie is old by the people who's in it, but it just felt like this movie was made a couple of years ago or something like that. It is not dated like that. And I appreciate it so much because blues music isn't dated like that. Blues music, you don't know if you're listening to a 50-year-old song or a 5-year-old song when it comes to blues, because that's the way blues is structured. And I just loved everything about this movie. It is truly a cult classic. It is one of my favorites, to be honest with you. Growing up, I remember watching this movie ad nauseum, because when it popped on HBO act like they was going out of style. They played it back to back to back to back. It was almost daily that Crossroads came out, and rightfully so, because it is amazing. Crossroads from 1986 gets a letter grade of an A. Yeah, I love this movie. And if you haven't seen it, seek it out. If you seen it, but it's been a minute, go back and watch it. It is one of those movies, man. It really brings up a lot of nostalgia, especially if you're into blues music. it'll make you reconnect, or that you was into blues music and not so much now, it'll make you reconnect. So it's one of those type of feels. And so, yes, man, it is Black Music Month. Go out and celebrate black music. Bump it in your cars, whether it's blues, hip hop, rap, whatever the genre may be. I mean, man, appreciate what you are getting from these black artists, these songwriters and composers, whoever it may be. Show some appreciation to them any way you can. I would like to know, what is your favorite genre of music? Is it blues? Is it R&B? Is it soul? Is it gospel? Is it I think I said R&B, but funk music, whatever it is. What's your favorite genre of music? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this year's edition of Black Music Month and the review of Crossroads and its 40th anniversary. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.